As the hysteria swirls once again around the virus numbers, it's important to remember those numbers represent only half of the bargain in which we're supposed to participate. As I discussed last video, I think there's ample reason to read those numbers with a skeptical eye. But even if those numbers are accurate, even if they do represent thousands and thousands of otherwise preventable deaths, accepting those numbers as accurate is supposed to also mean accepting the prescription, that an ever-clenching government fist is going to squeeze the Rona right out of us, and through power centralization and arbitrary decrees, we will all soon find salvation. So don't look critically at the death numbers for the details, and don't look critically at the actual preventable deaths imposed along the way: suicides, drug overdoses, treatable conditions gone undetected through misscreening appointments. And definitely don't look critically at the numbers for how the government has supposedly saved us along the way. The Senate is debating a new stimulus bill. Joe Biden says, "Obey me for 100 days and things will get way better, I promise." Before we submit to the next round of government cure-alls, it might be wise to evaluate the last round for effectiveness. The overwhelming majority of Americans have been obeying government whims, but the viral spread still worsens. If the government's restrictive measures haven't been highly effective, well, how about its assistance? If we all just submit to the restrictions, then government will take care of us with free money. That's supposedly the obvious deal to take, until you take the time to scrutinize it. A common theme this year. Just fire up the old money printer. Brr is the sound of prosperity. Just make up a ridiculous number and go with it. Say $525 billion. Crank it out, drop it through the banks, and do it fast. Just like your health, you can count on the government to manage your money much better than you can, so don't worry about it. Or so we're supposed to think. That's why it was an absolutely shocking result to see fraud reports spike in perfect timing with the passage of the CARES Act relief package in the spring. $250 million of that money has already been identified as fraudulent, and that's with minimal oversight. And if you're tempted to say, well, yeah, just wait for the maximum oversight, that day ain't coming. The Small Business Administration has already said they aren't aggressively auditing those payouts under $2 million. They will assume those claims were made, quote, in good faith. Bottom line, if you settled for 1,200 Ronabucks, you're a sucker. You could have been a Rona millionaire, and I guarantee some people are. And even when it's not fraud, the supposed proper use of this money is often itself suspect enough. In Los Angeles, the county used their federal relief dollars to hire celebrities to make PSAs to help, quote, spread coronavirus messaging on social media at a cost of nearly $3 million. So just to get this straight, the federal government taxes you to prop up your local government, who also taxes you but can't manage their finances, to make rich people richer by propagandizing you to stop earning the money that they steal from you to make this message in the first place. If that sounds confusing, if it takes a second for your brain to process that arrangement, don't worry, it's not you. It's a government solution. Fraud is bad enough. Propaganda is bad enough. Convincing you to ruin your own life is bad enough. But how about taking a hammer to it themselves? How about actually funding the Antifa bricks, or actually funding the Black Lives Matter gas cans and matches? Would it shock you to learn that's actually happening? In any other year, maybe, but this year, that sounds entirely predictable. Hat tip to Victoria Taft, writing over at PJ Media. She's got the scoop. Headline, Oregon gave Antifa your CARES Act COVID relief tax dollars during the riots. She's combed through the details to discover a supposed charity directly working with Portland's mobs of rioters over the summer received a quote-unquote health equity grant award of $145,000 in September. This award from the Oregon Health Authority with funds provided by the federal coronavirus stimulus bill. So the federal government gave the states money to support charities at their discretion, and Oregon decided it was crucial to support communities of color disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. So the state sought to award groups that are addressing health and economic disruptions, food insecurity and housing, and safety and violence prevention, which in government speak, of course, means committing violence and preventing safety. The award in question went to the group Snack Bloc. If you haven't heard of it, That's because nobody has. It was formally organized as a charity in June, with the name being a play on Black Bloc. Snack Bloc brings food to Portland's mobs, making sure they're all well fed after they've ransacked the restaurants and other businesses that are otherwise doing a much better job of keeping people well fed. There's little known about this supposed charity's operation other than its creator, Mason Wade. Aside from passing out Cheetos for smashed windows, Mason's main accomplishment of the summer was posting a highly produced infomercial about white supremacy to Snack Bloc's Instagram account.
Are you tired of white supremacy? Bitch. Welcome to the club. We've been holding your spot for hundreds of years. Call 1-800-BURN-IT-DOWN. Resources for the revolution.
I guarantee that video has created way more white supremacists than it's ever defeated. But yes, you can spend money calling to burn it down in highly produced fashion and get 6 figures of taxpayer compensation for it. And that video was used not only to call for the burning, but to intimidate Mayor Ted Wheeler too. Mason and Snack Bloc encouraged people to send it to Ted for his birthday and demand his resignation. According to Snack Bloc on Twitter, Mason, or at least someone running the account, was at that protest at Ted Wheeler's apartment building at the time. That event was declared a riot after the typical property destruction. The rioters broke into a ground floor dental office and stole various items and supplies. So the charity supposedly providing corona aid is actually ransacking essential health services, and you're paying for the hors d'oeuvres. But Mason says this is all deserved, of course, because Mayor Ted Wheeler is a white supremacist.
It's Ted Wheeler, and he's going to continue to pussyfoot around everything and support white supremacy. So, sorry if I said that actually too, by the way.
Okay, white supremacist or not, if this dude thinks you're a pussy, you gotta be a gigantic pussy.
I want to thank you for bringing national attention to this important issue.
Anytime, Ted. And just for some clarity on the burn it down mantra that the feds in the state of Oregon think is perfectly suitable for taxpayer support, yes, he means destroy things. Yes, he means revolution, implicitly violent if necessary.
I don't believe in putting property over people. You know, buildings can be rebuilt. But lives can't. Once it's gone, it's gone. Even to this day that we're still having this conversation of, but the looting, you know, I'm like, no, lives are being lost. How are we equating? But then once again, this is a huge problem within America, is that we put profit over human life.
If it's just property and it doesn't matter, how about you give us our $150,000 back? Oh, it's just property. Who cares? Well, why did you apply for that property in the first place then? It's not like lives were at stake. And as though the riots weren't deadly, I'll accept your but malooting premise when you acknowledge that malooting not only robbed countless victims, but killed dozens too.
There's so many paths in the revolution. There are so many. You know, we're all going towards the same goal, but there's different routes.
If there are so many paths to the revolution, why do you choose the path of violence and destruction? You say you have options, and you choose to ruin people. So forgive me if your choices make me hesitate to believe in your vision for the future. And yeah, this is probably the worst of it, although nothing surprises me anymore. So there may very well be a bottom well below this. But just to address any claims that this guy is just an outlier and we can be confident that the rest of our money was properly spent. Take this guy at his best. Assume he actually is just passing out Cheetos to hungry people in need. Assume all his violent revolution talk is just jokes that Susan finds hilarious and allows on YouTube for some reason. Even at his best, this story still exposes a massive lack of oversight. Snack Bloc filed as a 501c3 nonprofit with the IRS in June of this year. So recent, there aren't even filings to evaluate. With established charities, you can look at their paperwork and see who they're paying and how much they're actually supporting their charitable mission. Because these organizations are tax exempt, they have transparency requirements with the American public. But Snack Bloc is so new, there's no transparency to be found. You can't find financials. You can't find organizational leadership. The address listed in their IRS registration shows up as some screen printing shop. It doesn't look like a house of charity to me. It looks like maybe there are some apartments in the building. Maybe that's the office of this charity. But I'm just wondering, where is the warehouse full of food for those in need? Okay, but just because the group is new doesn't mean they aren't doing great work, right? Can't we learn about the group through other means? This is Snack Bloc's current website. I saw better designs on MySpace through an AOL dial-up trial CD in the late 90s. Would you donate to this sketchy page? If not, why would you do it indirectly through the government? The only upfront information is how to give them money. And the federal and Oregon state governments said right away, after we plucked the wallets of the honest citizens whose livelihoods you just burned down. If taxpayer relief for charities is the plan, you would think we'd select more established and reputable charities with a record of community service we can vet and publish and make publicly viewable as honest and productive and effective. Better yet, just let you keep your money in your own wallet and decide for yourself how to use it. But if we're going to rely on government distribution, surely we can achieve better accountability than this. Or maybe not. Oil and water are an easier mix than government and accountability. Instead of crafting some master plan to mix them, it's much easier to remember. There's a good chance that dollar you give to the government will pay the guy who comes to steal your next one. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on Twitter. That is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to coming out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Come on.